and on your TV, your radio and online. Good morning, it is 8:34.
So let's go through the newspapers now with Dawn Neeson and Kevin Woodford. Morning, and thank you for coming in again.
Pleasure.
However, we're going to start with you, Dawn. In the Sun, story about migrants.
We have a food theme for our first couple of stories. We're coordinated here, Kevin and I. This is, it's buried away in the Sun, but obviously there's a lot of other stuff going on. And this is revealing that the government spent £39,000 at Domino's Pizzas for boat migrants, basically the souls crossing the Channel, and whatever your politics on that.
When they arrive, they're wet, poor, cold, and hungry.
Exactly. So they've been sent to this holding centre, which has now been closed, and this research has been revealed that in 5 months, Border Force officials spent nearly £39,000 of taxpayers' money buying pizzas for the migrants. Now, look, obviously they need to be cared and looked after when they've arrived here, but I'm just thinking at the moment, and with everybody, the cost of living crisis, more and more families in this country using food banks, does it feel right that the government is spending this much money on pizzas to feed the migrants? I mean, it's been taken, this has stopped now, by the way, it's been taken over by a catering company, which makes a lot more sense, obviously. But, the pizza company in particular was saying, they were snowed under. Literally every day, customs officials were going down there, border officials were going down there and buying loads of pizzas on government credit cards.
Gosh.
I
mean, obviously these people have to be fed and looked after.
Of course.
When you learn detail like this, you sort of understand why it is such a burden looking after people who've arrived
and also why
illegally.
Why people get so angry about the situation as well. And it's a very divisive subject.
Did Domino's Pizza give them a discount?
Well, quite not, evidently. It was 3,900 of the chain's £9.99 medium pizzas, such as a veggie supreme or a Texas barbecue.
So tell them they suggest what toppings you could have.
Well, I think they were given the menu, basically. But, I mean, last year, as we all know now, 28,500 migrants crossed the Channel in small boats, and more than 14,000 have made the journey so far this year.
I just hope that changing that burden to a catering company turns out to be cost efficient as well, because catering companies can cost a fortune.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're a commercial company. I don't see how it would make any difference whatsoever, to be quite frank with you. Domino, the commercial company, a catering company is going to look to maximise its profit.
But it needs to be cost effective. Just making the change.
No, it does. I mean, but there's the whole issue, isn't it, with this? I mean, it's such an evocative subject, because we've got people on the streets at the moment that can't afford to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And we're helping others. I just think it's such a shame.
It shows how complex the situation is.
Very much so. But the whole food thing's interesting, because
take us to your story in the Mail about M&S food.
Absolutely. Well, Marks and Spencer's at the moment, along with the Mail are doing a thing on war on food waste. And it's interesting this, because we were in Marks and Spencer's, my wife and I, the other day, and we were looking at, because we tend to sort of look at dates, obviously, because what's the sell by date and what's the eat by date? Two different things, best by and eat by. And Marks and Spencer are now scrapping around about 85% of their best by dates, So that's fine, because if you look at certain things like fruit, for example, I mean, apples are a great example. Then that's perfectly okay. There's a line to draw. Things that have a deterioration process, chicken, meat, anything like that, fish, then that mustn't be touched at all. That needs to be absolutely it. But they're quite right to do this, to be honest, because the amount of food waste is phenomenal. It's just thrown away. It's ridiculous. And they're doing this thing, a lot of stores are doing this now, whereby you can buy ready-to-eat bananas, so they're ripe and overripe.
Yeah.
And I know for me, if I'm looking for bananas in the supermarket, I want them where they're just a little bit black.
Yeah, they're on the turn.
Yeah, they're on the turn.
You want them on the turn?
I do, Stephen, because that's what I want. I want them on the turn. For me, the worst thing in the world is a really underripe banana. It's horrible. The horrible thing.
See, I buy those mixed bananas where you get some green and some yellow, so it's going to last you for a week.
No, that's good. But I mean, you can now buy. I think they're selling for 25p. Marks are selling 3 bananas. They're ready-to-eat bananas for 25p, which is great value. And you can buy more than that. The trick is buy more than that, because then banana bread is fantastic. So let the bananas become really overripe, and then you can make banana bread, banana muffins, all sorts of stuff like that.
When they go,
But they are right to do it, because the amount of food waste in this country is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, and they should have a little sticker saying, if you are going to make banana bread, these are the ones for you.
That's right, and what they are starting
help you out.
Absolutely, they're starting to put recipes together with that. That's what they're doing, which is a great idea, you know. But I think it's fine. I think it's fine for the majority of food to get rid of the Best Buy, because it does put people off. People will look at certain ingredients and
just get a bit confused, because it always used to be best before.
It did.
And then they changed it to used by,
Correct.
which does feel like much more of a cut-off point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then sell by is an industry thing, isn't it?
Correct.
It's for them.
That's
they
correct.
have to mark down sell by stuff.
Correct. There still is a dichotomy when it comes to sort of, identifying how we actually label these things. And there does need to be a much clearer sort of process.
Do you think there's also a bit of common sense should be?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Something looks a bit,
Absolutely.
off or unripe, or
Yeah.
anything, you make your own decision when you're going to use.
Absolutely right. But one of the other things which is great is that we're getting away from the packaging that we used to have. You know, where there was a pack of 4 apples and they had a hard plastic top on, so you couldn't feel them. You know, and I was the worst. I'm surprised I haven't been locked up for it. I would undo the wrapping and have a feel of I want to make sure it's ripe and it's ripe. You know, so no, I think we've still a way to go on this, to be quite frank, Em.
Interesting.
We do over-package vegetables.
Oh, we still do. It's crazy.
Cucumbers have got a cellophane wrapping on them.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Dawn to the Sunday Times, looking at abortion.
This is actually, I think personally, the most shocking story I've read in any of the papers this morning. This is 2 women are facing prison for having an abortion, including one who obtained the pills from an authorised provider.
In what country?
In the UK, and in this country. I'm stunned by this.
It must be a very unusual situation.
Well, evidently, 52 women reported to police since 2015, so it's not as unusual as you think. But basically, the story is on Friday, a 25-year-old woman pleaded not guilty at Oxford Crown Court to a single charge of administering poison with the intent to procure a miscarriage. Now, this poor young...
self-abortion?
It was. This poor young woman, I mean, she was 28 weeks pregnant. She was obviously desperate. English isn't her first language. I think might be a bit of a clue as to what's going on here. And basically, she got the pills legally from whoever supplies these things, but the morning after pill basically is what we're talking about, which you're not meant to take after 10 weeks. She was 28 weeks pregnant. I'm assuming that the crime was reported because she went into hospital then and gave birth to a stillborn fetus at 28 weeks. But, this poor woman ended up in court for basically being desperate. Now, you would think we were talking about America, where, as we know, in some states now, abortion is illegal. But this is in this country. And there's another case coming up, I think, next week, maybe, Anne, in Staffordshire, where a similar young woman is being put through a similar thing. And there's a group of our charities, doctors, BPAS, who have written to the CPS and said, we should stop prosecuting desperate young women who do this. It's not in the public interest. They're in no danger. And the fact basically they're being prosecuted under a bill that goes back to the Infant Life 1861. It's the Offences Against the Person Act of 1861. This is still being used against desperate young women who are obviously, nobody would choose to do this. Nobody would choose to put themselves through this unless they were in dire straits.
No, there must be dire straits that aren't obviously being gone into.
Of course, no. But
if something is that dire, then it's more than just a criminal prosecution that's...
and you know what?
Isn't it?
And because this is such an outdated law, it's not going to happen, I know, but these young women face life imprisonment.
Yeah. Well, but the CPS must have decided to prosecute.
Well, quite. And this is what this letter that's been sent to the CPS saying, why are you doing this? This is unnecessary. These women are no danger to the public. It's not in the public interest. And it's...
I understand them wanting to prosecute somebody doing illegal and unsafe abortions.
Yeah.
But if these kids are so dreadfully distressed and desperate, that they are doing it to themselves, then there's so much more to it than committing a crime, isn't there?
Of course there is. I don't understand that. We know the CPS, I mean, sort of not covered themselves in glory recently with some of the cases they do let go, and to prosecute desperate young women, I just find appalling.
It doesn't seem the right thing to do, does it?
No, not at all.
OK, let's change tack significantly, Kevin, thankfully, to the Observer. And a bit of naturism
Yes, I was very fortunate once. I lived in, when I was a young lecturer, I lived in Lincolnshire, and my next door neighbour, it turns out, were nudists.
Oh, excellent.
It was lovely, very, very good, yeah. And they invited us to an open day.
Why was it? Oh, did
An open day, right?
In their garden?
No, at their club, in the
I
club.
see.
So we went along, and fortunately we could keep our clothes on. So it was the middle of winter, and I remember thinking, why on earth would anybody want to take their clothes off? First of all, in Crowell, which is near Doncaster, and secondly, in the winter.
Yeah.
But people did.
Did you keep your eyes up?
No.
Where do you look?
No. Well, it is difficult. It is very difficult. I admit. But the thing was, the interesting thing about that was that there used to be a magazine called Health and Efficiency. I'm told, I never, as a young boy, I could never reach the top
Yes,
shelf,
yeah.
right? But in Health and Efficiency, there was a local version of that, and so we were living in Scunthorpe at this particular point, and. There was a lot of naturists living in the area. We didn't know that at the time until we went to this club. And it then transpires that after we'd been for the open day and played mini 10 with all these people, as you do, sort of with your clothes on them, we then go off to the local shops, and our butcher was a nudist. So he's really proud because he'd made the front page, right? Now, I never bought sausages from that man ever again. No, truthfully, no, I didn't. I kept away from that chap. I did. And as for the cobbler, I was going nowhere near that shop. But here we go. Right, so I've never understood this. I've never understood the idea of anybody wanting to take their clothes off in public. Maybe that says something about me. But in Sardinia, right, there's an organisation called the Italian Naturist Association, which are pushing like mad for Sardinia to become a haven for naturists. And the problem they've got is that at the moment, it's a very, very popular place for trails, for sort of, walking holidays. And all of a sudden, there's people who are having walking holidays, and there's lots of nude people wandering around as well. And Italy, right, not so long ago, somebody nude on a beach in Italy could have landed you with a 2-month prison term. Right? That recently. And there are still fines of up to £10,000 if you take your clothes off in the wrong place. Yes. But Sardinia are going for a big fashion.
See, I'm all for it.
No.
I am all for I mean, not for me.
Have you done it?
No.
He's all for it for other people.
Oh, right.
I haven't done it, and it's not my cup of tea.
But have you seen anybody that has, Stephen?
I've seen people.
I have. I was going to work the other day, literally 2 days ago, in London, central London, and it was like 5:30 in the morning. It was a very early start. Getting out of the cab, and I swear there was a man walking down the road. It was quiet, obviously, walking down the road, completely naked. I mean, it didn't have shoes on, so it was obviously full naturist. He had a rucksack on his back, and he was just walking along with his headphones on, listening to music, completely naked, in the middle of London, walking down the street.
Don, he's not a naturist. He's a nutter.
Yeah,
He's a complete nutter. He's got to be.
Unless he was going to join the naked bike ride.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, was there a naked bike
There was a
ride?
naked bike ride the other week. But I just sort of
No.
think if people want to be with nature, let them get on with it.
Yeah, but find a
I
place
don't
to
have
do it.
Oh, well, yes, you don't want to just do it around the streets particularly.
No, but also,
but I don't have an issue with it
But
at
don't you
all.
think it's also to do with sort of, body imaging? Are you happy with the way you look, and do you want other people to look at you looking like
But
that?
this-
I couldn't do that.
No, well, no, I wouldn't want people to look and judge
done
me
it.
like that
I've been swimming naked in the sea.
with other people.
Well, with the husband.
Oh, well, that's different.
Yeah.
And then you
That's
walked out
different.
to
He
the
did
sea.
therapy afterwards, but
You walked out to the sea then, still naked.
well, it sounds terrible. It was in the Caribbean, and it was his birthday, so we decided we had a glass of champagne, as you do, and then we
Put his
just.
birthday suit on.
And then we put his birthday.
Oh.
But then we went, and it was lovely. And swimming in really nice warm water is just the lovely thing.
Oh, I bet it is.
But I think that's nice. I can understand that. But doing it on a campsite with lots of other people around.
And why, Kevin? What I don't understand is why they always play bouncy games.
They do.
They always play badminton or tennis.
No.
Why not chess, where you just sit down and
Absolutely.
Why
Keep everything covered and play
jiggling?
chess. No, I agree. There's nothing worse.
No, I'm a very much a live and let live sort of person. If that gives some people some pleasure or feeling of being with nature, I'm saying you go for it. You go for it. I'd have
As long as in no way does it ever feel threatening to anyone else.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, getting out of a cab in London at 5:30 in the morning and suddenly being
Yeah, that's not right.
That's a bit strange.
That's
That's very
not right
strange.
somehow.
Thankfully, my eyesight is as good as it used to be.
No. Now talking of things, and this is another Kevin one. I'm sure you want to kick in on this one. William Shatner says he's a sex symbol at 90.
Yes.
The man's deluded.
He does. He actually does believe it as well. It's a great photograph of somebody who doesn't look like a sex symbol. He looks something like out of a pudgy film. That's gone very badly
But he's
wrong.
still a hero to people.
He's a hero, but that's different to being a sex symbol, isn't
Yeah,
it?
well,
He
he's-
believes he's a sex symbol.
All for this. I think no matter how old you are,
Don't-
you should be confident,
don't-
body confident. You should.
Totally with you. Honestly, totally with you. But I think there's a level of realism. I believe that. I think we used to say, once you got over 60, that was you finished. That was it. Well, it isn't like that anymore. Thank goodness, right? But I think you've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic, right? 90 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, whatever the age, you can be a hero to lots of people because of the work that you did. But you're not a sex symbol. If that guy, seriously, if Shatner thinks he's a sex symbol,
I'll bet he gets fan mail.
I bet he does.
Besotted with.
he does. But you know where he gets them from? The Solomon Islands. That's where he gets all of his fan mail from. I don't know.
Solomon
I've got no idea.
That's weird.
I've got
the
no
Solomon
idea.
Islands.
That's where he gets them from. He gets marriage proposals from the Solomon
There you
Islands.
are.
Well, they're just after his money.
No, they
Not
probably,
his-
they probably
not
only
anything
just
else.
got Star
I like
Trek.
it. I love that
The
story.
Solomon Islands.
It's a great story. It's a great story, and I love the man. But I just,
Oh no, he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant person.
Well, beam me up, Totty.
Oh, God.
oh my
That was
goodness.
dreadful.
I'm here all week. We're out of time. Dawn, Kevin, thank you both for it.
Thank you.
King Kevin,
That was brilliant. Thank you.
finally we've done a show to you after years
I
of
know,
talking about it.
it's been great. We got a little one, didn't we? Your
little
story the
taster.
other week, a quickie, a little
Will you come back?
a precursor. I'd love to come back.
Dawn's good.
I would. Let me just get over this experience first.
Yeah. Weeks to recover. Thank you both very much.
Strong cup of
indeed.
coffee after that.